reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." How much is enough? How much is enough? That's what comes to me this day at this intersection of this gospel text appointed for today and the experience that is the modern day experience of living through Advent as a church member and as a member of our broader society, where we are all about preparation. Of course, the great message of Advent for us, we who are followers of Christ, is to be ready, to be watchful, to be alert, to be prepared, to be ready to encounter again Jesus coming into the world, Christ coming into the world, but this time not as a helpless baby, but as one who comes enshrined and shrouded in power and glory, and who comes to judge the nations, not just us as individuals, but to judge the nations and to set things right. That is a cosmic, gigantic project. And so I'm not sure what looking ready for that looks like, but it feels like a big deal and like it might want to take a lot of my energy. And then there's the being ready and the preparations for perhaps the more quotidian and mundane things, but still the very stuff of our life, being prepared for our holiday season. Are we traveling? Are we hosting? Are we gathering with one or two friends? Are we coming to church and making that our primary center of relational energy for the great feast of the season? There's so much preparation, so much to be done. And the question for me comes, how much is enough? How much preparing should I do? And when should I say, I've done enough, it's time to watch and wait and rest in hopefulness? And Jesus' words from the Gospel of Matthew come in a particular way to me today. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So I've said long time ago, and I've said ever since, that the summary of this text for me is just that God doesn't give us heavy burdens to bear. So if you are, like I am, sometimes struggling to know when I should be pushing more and putting my shoulder to the wheel and trying harder and being more prepared, and when I should sit back and do something other than my nose to the grindstone, do something that looks a little bit more like contemplation, something that looks a little bit more like joy and reception of the gift of God in my life. If you're kind of struggling with that balance as well, these words of Jesus might ring particularly powerfully in your ear as well. Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. The summary of this, as I started to say, is that if you are carrying a heavy burden, you should probably put it down. Because if you're carrying a heavy burden, it's not from God. Jesus says, I don't give you heavy burdens to bear. I give you light burdens. Take my yoke upon you, for it's easy and the burdens are light. So if you find yourself in a death struggle with some enormous set of tasks that you've set up for yourself, I would encourage you to hear Jesus's words and to understand if you want to work like that, you can, but just understand that's not coming from God's desires for your life. God is desiring that you have a life filled with joy, filled with love, filled with connection to God and to all those companions that God has given us along the way. So may you find a way for this to resonate in your heart and in your life and in your to-do list this day, to know that at the end of the day, Christ invites us each and all to follow and to rest in a life of work, but a work that is a joy, work that is not a burden, and work that draws us closer to one another and ultimately closer to receiving Christ in all the ways that Christ comes into our life, as the little babe, as the one who is coming in power and glory, and as the one who lives in our midst and in our hearts this very day. May God be with you this day. May God bless you and keep you this day and always. Amen.